Alright, so here's the process of making this good. We need to do UVs on the low-res item. The low-res item here just needs to be, absolutely covering over this, I've noticed. So, a few things I gotta change here. Like, first off, let's toggle this right protected. Let's make this a little bit more right there. Let's cover this entire mesh with blue, just barely. It's got to be just barely. This will prevent it from floating on an envelope. So the envelope it's a bad thing. You usually don't want to change your envelope settings, and that means that you have to get it good here at mesh level. Okay, so good. Okay, next. Don't be picky about UVs just yet. Really, you have to figure out, is it going to transfer first? So usually what I do is I go to automatic mapping. Just leave it in automatic mapping for right now. For the automatic mapping settings, you'll see that there is a setting in here that allows you to state your map size. I'm going to choose 128 there and hit apply. This will create a large gap between objects or the shell structures. So I'm going to choose that. Okay, next. Now we just have to set up the actual bake. So to do that, let's go on. Alright, so to begin testing, we go into here to rendering, and then we go to transfer maps. By default, the transfer maps looks like this. If it does not, you don't have the mental ray add-in. So to turn that on, plugin manager, and go ahead and turn on Maya et more. That one right there. And that will allow this ambient occlusion to pop up. Alright, so first off, I want to remove all search envelopes. So I'll clear all, and I'll clear all here. And then I'll add my target mesh. So my target mesh is this low res. I'll add that. 4 on the keyboard will allow me to get into the wireframe. I'll uncheck that and add this as the high res. Make sure you have a project established. I have a project already established. I've established that a long time ago. That should be default for you guys now. But, save every 2 seconds. And always edit, delete by type history on all items. I can't tell you, there's so many little things about transferring maps that affect the map quality. But history is one of them. Click on ambient occlusion, and we're going to set that to a TIFF. That's going to go into my unit 3 folder, just like I chose. We're going to do a very small one at first, like 512 by 512, and keep down the number of samples to 1 until we get down the process of it looking okay at a lower level. Then we'll bump this setting up. Okay, so let's hit bake and pray. Okay, to preview that real quick, you go into rendering editors, go to hypershade, and you'll see that there's a new map in here. And the material looks okay here, but it doesn't show anything here. So you gotta click there, middle mouse button, click and drag this over to color, and you should be able to now preview it. Okay, so you get this really low res representation of it. Alright, so I'm seeing anomalies right here on the top, and that's about it. So anytime I see that, let's go into the settings of transfer maps. See, it's at 1%. So that's telling it to float above just a little bit. So let's eliminate the 0% and then hit bake again. Okay, same process as before. Go to Hypershade, click on the next one, hit this button, middle mouse button, click and drag it over to color. Okay, so get used to doing that. You have to do it a lot. Okay, next. Still having some issues right there. So that's going to be telling me that it's probably too close or too far away. So let's look at that too close or too far away thing. I'm going to guess it's too far away. Okay, again, take the object. Now you've changed a little bit of it, so you have to make good. Create UVs, automatic mapping. Anytime you totally change the object, you got to do the UVs again. That's why I'm not choosing a hardcore version of the UVs until I'm dead set. And then you also have to delete by type history. Okay, rebake. I would rebake in text in the window so you can see it happen. Now getting results is absolutely perfect, very rare. I mean, you're going to have to do some work in post, but I like to try to eliminate as much as possible. So again, here's 16, middle mouse button, click and drag it over to color, and that's looking a lot better. So you can see there's only a little bit of anomalies at the top. This you have to fix at post level. There's this little black. That's easy enough. And the rest of it looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any kind of issues. This feels a little offset to me. Again, maybe because it's too far away. Sure enough, it might need another edge loop in here. And maybe just another one too. Okay, let's change it over here too. Do these have to be deadly accurate on both sides? Oh no. You'd be surprised the low res representations of these things and how much it differs. Okay, again, make do. Automatic mapping. Delete by type history. Rebake. So the fastest you can get to irradiate back and forth, trying it out, changing it, trying it out, changing it. That's the important part of this workflow. And I can see that shading is occurring right there. That's where I want it to go. Okay, last thing I want to try here is normals. I'm going to soften the edge of the normals here. It's going to make some wonky changes. but I'm going to try it anyway. Edit, delete by type history. Whoops. Now I didn't change the overall mesh there, I just changed the normals. So I haven't moved any vertices or edges or faces, so I didn't have to do the redo the UVs. And to be honest with you, the UVs are probably maybe some of the problem, but until I get the closeness and the envelope down, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. And look at that, that fixed all the issues, everything, just by softening the normals. Now when the normals are soft like this, you can also go like this and harden them back up. And then you get what you want, which is the TV. Sweet. So I'm going to soften those back up because I'm not done. But you can see the transfer is pretty cool at even a low level. And now what we have to do is bump up the settings. I can't video record that though. Once I bump up the settings, I'm lucky to get the outcome. So here, down below, what we want to do is set this map size to something huge. Okay. Again, I like 4096 or 2048. Don't bump up the number of samples just yet because you don't know what you're going to be doing as far as your system. If your system is godlike, yeah, number of samples should always be 4. But if you don't have that, don't worry about it. Keep this number of samples at 1 as a student. All right. So save it out. Bump up these if when you get it down, and then hit bake and try to bake it at a higher level now. Alright, so I've reached 2048 without my computer exploding. Yeah, that's good. And it doesn't look too bad. Now I'm just going to change a couple things with the UVs. Basically what I'm not happy with here is texturing this would be a nightmare. There's a couple things that are bad, but this automatic UV isn't all that bad. I'm just going to be too picky, but rotating this shell and rotating this shell is essential here. Alright, then what I'll do is grab all the UVs again and do a layout without any kind of rotation. Also, I'll dim this image so I can see with the UVs. Okay, what about this shell? This shell looks like a pain too. So if you want to uncheck this map so you can see what you're doing, you just go back to the other one. And no, you can't. Okay. Display image. That's better. Okay. So I got my 2 shells. They're standing up. That's good. These floaters, I don't like these either. Let's see what we can do with these. What I'm looking for is the adjacent edge that this one is highlighting. It's way over there, so that can be move and sewed. This one can be move and sewed. This one move and sewed. And I bet you this one over here move and sewed. So I got all those little floaters out of there. I'm not too happy with this single stack. It's taking up a lot of room. Basically, it's just the outside of the underside of that thing. So I'm going to cut these. And that way I can glue these somewhere else. So you can see it's stacking right up against there. Alright, so that should give you some more space, and that's what it is. It's all about space. And that's not a good layout. I don't feel that's a good layout at all. These are the correct size, but obviously Maya doesn't know anything about sizing, because I can put these closer together. And this one closer here, and then I can get a lot more space. So make sure you scale these uniformly, or you'll have problems with uniform textures. So get that uniformed down. Now you can put the checkerboard if you want on this to make sure everything's okay, but I feel secure about having it just like this. That's a much better layout. Save the scene. Make sure you delete by type history. And for the transfer map, what you should do to try it out is back it back down to 512. Because the model is good, now you just change the UVs. So go ahead and rebake and try it out. You can see by changing the UVs such a drastic improvement. So automatic mapping definitely sucks, and by changing those you got such a better quality, and now you have a really tight workflow, and you can say, well, now we're going to pump up the quality again to something that your computer can barely handle, and then walk away and go get some coffee. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Okay, so here we go. Here's a 4096 map of that TV, and we can zoom way in here, get all this level of detail in here, and this is just the ambient occlusion, mind you, with the samples set to 1. Now if I had a more powerful machine, I could set it to 3 or 4 and get all kinds of crazy detail, especially in this area, but I think this will do with the textures. And if you think about the power of this, I mean, this is how many polygons? You know, like what, 20? So what we're going to do now is keep this map, and we're going to look at making a normal map. So make sure that you're made like a backup copy of this. So this one right here is the one you want to make a copy of. And if you go to edit, it should open it in Photoshop, or this will work too. So we can open it in Photoshop. Now if you don't make a backup copy of it, you could potentially overwrite it, and you don't want that. In Photoshop, if you look at the detail of this thing, it's just almost amazing. Oh, it's pulling in all the recovered files from everything. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Look at that detail. Awesome. So let's save as. What I want to make is a folder. We'll call this maps, and this is the TV OCC. I'm going to call it TIFF. Image compression none, and hit OK. All right, now that we have that map, let's look at the normal map in the next video. All right, so to produce a normal map in Maya, one just has to change a few things. First thing you need to do is we have to go to normals, and we have to harden the edge, okay, on the object. The other object, it would be best if we soften the edge. Okay, next. Let's go into transfer maps. Get rid of all maps in here. Remove. Okay, and we'll choose normal map. Now normal map starts as a DDS. We don't want that. We want a TIFF. It uses my common output. So change it to the settings. 512 by 512 first. We're using object space. We want 4 by 4 for the medium quality for right now. And the filter size 4. Now the filter size blurs it a little bit, but that's okay because I really want the actual texture to do most of the job, not the normal map. Down here below, choose closest to envelope and surface normals, not geometry normals. Alright, so let's see what happens. Perfect. Should have a straight on shot of it, just like that. I don't want anything too much more than that because it needs to be a straight on. If you don't have a straight on, what will happen, it'll look like this. See the knobs? Look at the knobs in the OCC, ambient occlusion. So this one's very straight on. This one is at an angle. So the two maps will never meet up very well. But here, these will match up quite well. You'll have a little touch up in post, but not much. Okay, now just to kind of see if that looks good, you can right click on it and go to edit. Now you'll see some of the information over here needs to change. In other words, I don't have anything bumped in this area. So I don't have to worry about this, and I'll have to fix that in post. I'll have to fix a few of these things in post. But that's not a big deal with normal maps. You could try out certain things like normal soften edge. To see if that fixes it. And it looks like it did. It did fix it a little bit. So I'm going to go with soften edge. I still have a little bit of shading issues right here, but in the overall, not too bad. With normal mapping, it is just a combination of soft edge versus hard edge that does it wrong. And as long as you can get that combination down pat, like sometimes you'll have to soften certain edges and harden other edges just to get a good combination. So obviously that didn't work because there's all kinds of bad right there. Once you get a good normal map, then it's time to go ahead and bake it out as far as a higher res version. So let's choose that. Let's go to 4096 by 4096. That matches my OCC map. I'm going to leave all this other stuff alone, and I'm just going to make sure I save my scene. Okay, now I'll hit bake here in a second and I'll come back. Alright, now that your normal map is generated, please open it up in Photoshop and save it as a TIFF. No compression. Next, you're going to be doing one more map, and it's called a displacement map. So there's no real big settings here. All I'm doing is actually switching this normal map out. I'm going to remove that and go displacement and change it to TIFF. Okay. The rest of this I'm going to leave alone because the normal map is already coming out straight, so the OCC or the displacement map will follow suit. Make sure you save the scene and hit bake. I'll meet you back in the next video where we bring all of them together and start using them in Photoshop.